Have you created your checklist for the post-MOAS world? That's what we're going to be talking about today. Hello, I am Justice and Wealth, and thank you for coming to my channel. Be sure to check out the previous video that I uploaded about how to fight back the central bank digital currency with your tendies, and this time I'm going to be talking about what you should be considering when you do receive your tendies and when we do defeat the central banks. None of this is financial advice. None of what I have said so far in any capacity is financial advice, and you should not be making any financial decisions solely based on what I have said. With that out of the way, let's get over and see what we're going to be talking about today exactly. Before I go ahead and continue with this video, I do want to say I was not intending to make this video either. This idea was divinely inspired one night before I went to bed, so I figured it would be very helpful for you guys too who are in these plays such as AMC and GameStop or GTII. So here with this checklist, I'm going to cover 3 separate categories. The first one's going to be your exit strategy, the next is going to be the retirement plan, and third is going to be your life goals. Alright. So, with your exit strategy, you gotta consider your portfolio after this MOAS. When are you going to exit, and what will you be holding after this MOAS? Are you actually going to hold some more AMC or GME after all of this happens? Are you going to continue holding your GTII? Are you going to divest into other sorts of assets that may have been heavily shorted during this time? These are some things that you should deeply consider, as well as your assets. I kind of briefly covered this in the previous video that I uploaded. Are you going to be holding gold, silver, Bitcoin? Are you going to be investing into some properties? What other hard assets are you going to be investing into? Because I outlined it in the last video how the US dollar fiat monetary system is going to collapse down to zero, where its inherent value actually lies. You also should consider your vaulting solutions. Where are you going to hold all your funds? Are you going to keep them in the banks? Which I think is highly unwise if you do, because I think you're at more risk to lose everything that you hold in your banks as opposed to the stock market at this rate. Are you going to buy a vault and keep it in your own home? Or are you going to go with a vaulting company of sorts that you could trust? Are you going to move your funds into a credit union? Are you going to go into an IRA that you trust and move all your funds there? After this MOAS, it's very important to know where you're going to hold your funds, where you're going to secure them, so that no institution or no criminal can come in and take whatever that's rightfully yours. You're also going to have to make plans for legal implications of this MOAS. Do you have a tax attorney on hand? Do you have a CPA? I personally do not feel like the IRS is going to be a thing after this MOAS. I'm not going to base that off of anything tangible or off of any sources. I just have a gut feeling about the IRS and how they're going to collapse along with all this corruption that's happening. If you do not share the same sentiment, then definitely consider a tax attorney. I also forgot. Asset protection. There are legal resources that will help you in other ways with asset protection that you should definitely consider. This is going to require a lot of extensive research on your part. Next up, your retirement plans. How much are you earning currently, and how much do you plan to sustain your life after this MOAS? Are you going to need $100,000 a year? Are you going to need more or less, do you think? You should deeply consider what kind of lifestyle that you are going to have. And also think, how many more years do you think you have left? That way you could set aside an amount of money so you can save and retire off on. Your house and your property. Are you going to stay where you live after this MOAS? Or are you going to move? Are you going to be living in a rural location or in a big city? What area are you actually considering, and have you actually done some research on the crime statistics in that area? Depending on where you decide to live, there will be huge implications on some of the purchases that you may need to consider down the line. I'll get into an example in a minute. While doing your research, looking for a place to move to, if that is your choice, be sure to bookmark all of your favorite properties and houses and land that you are deeply considering. After this MOAS, and after you have done your research on the different forms of property that you are considering, you will need to schedule some time in your life to scout out those properties, wherever they may be. Considering the distance, you will have to come up with a travel plan. You may also need to consider plans on selling, reselling, or renting out different properties that you have scouted out and that you plan to actually buy. After this MOAS, your security and your safety is going to be very critical. Especially here in America, you're going to want to consider your options for your different forms of home security. I do not intend to get political, but you need to know your rights, especially your Second Amendment rights. You should definitely consider getting a firearm if you haven't. And definitely get some firearm training, as well as firearm safety training above all. It may not be too likely that there will be an event where someone will try to steal your assets or your wealth. It is always better to be prepared. Consider a firearm like a fire extinguisher. It's better to have it and not need it than to not have it and need it. Also, when considering your home buying decisions, you should also consider different forms of home security. You should also do some research on different home security companies as well. Figure out which one will work in your best interest. Also, know your rights above all. Make sure you have an attorney on hand, or an attorney that you can turn to when some sort of crisis event occurs. This also falls with the legal aspect that I kind of brushed upon above. You should also consider getting a legal defense attorney as well. That way, if something does happen, you know who to turn to in case of a crisis that requires a legal expert to aid you in. Now let's talk about vehicles. Now, like I said above, with like your location, you're not going to want to get a Lamborghini when the location that you're going to put your home on does not have a paved road. I did a lot of road tripping a couple years ago, and there were a lot of roads that were not paved that we went on. We were doing a lot of we were visiting a lot of different parks and stuff, and a lot of them did not have any pavement on the roads. That would have been very terrible for a Lamborghini to drive on, as well as being in the city or being in a place where you think there might be a high amount of crime, which I would highly recommend not living in, but you do you. If you do decide to live in a big place, like in a big city, you probably should not get a Lamborghini there either, unless you're in a very secure neighborhood. So, be practical first with your vehicle purchases. And then when you have everything situated and you know how to take care of your vehicle as well, especially you need to be taking more care with a high-priced vehicle like a Lamborghini. But once you get that situated, then perhaps you can consider getting yourself a Lambo as well with your tendies. Along with your retirement plan, though, you should also consider passive income opportunities. This will continue sustaining your daily livelihood, as well as the livelihood of your loved ones. These can come into different forms, such as your various forms of investments. It could come from your hobbies if you monetize them. It could come from businesses that you choose to establish, which I would highly recommend. I went over ideas on how to defeat the central bank digital currency in the previous video, and what you could do with your businesses if you decide to establish one. Go ahead and view that one on my channel as well if you have not already. And while you're at it, be sure to like and subscribe to if you are enjoying the content that I'm currently posting out. Again, as I stated before, I did not intend to make this channel or any of these videos. They were just inspiration that I felt a weird calling to make. Anyways, back to the topic at hand. You should consider how you're going to continue receiving your passive income after this MOAS hits. You should also consider your stashed funds as well. If you already calculate how much of your life savings that you're going to need for this MOAS world, and you know or believe you know how many years you're going to have left on this world, then you should keep a set amount of money set aside to help fund your daily activities. For me personally, I estimated I would need about $10 million to retire. It's also going to be very important, though, to not do too much frivolous spending. If you spend too much money on luxuries, you may see those tendies disappear right before your eyes, and you won't be able to retire. So you got to be very careful with what you're going to be putting your money in. Like a very key thing, which I'll get to in a minute, is having discipline with your funds. We don't want to be like the hedge fund managers who are greedy bastards, you know. We're better than that. That's why we deserve to have the wealth transfer. That's why this wealth transfer is happening in the first place. Because we are patient. They are not patient. We are generous. And they are greedy. Now consider your family. Plan for their retirement and plan for the retirement of your children, especially. With your offspring and with your spouse, if you have one, if you have any children, I would at least plan a retirement equal to your personal needs in terms of monetary value. So if you, for example, think you could retire off of $10 million, then plan out $10 million for each of your loved ones. And then you will also need to train them to handle the money responsibly if in the event something does happen to you. And if something happens where you are unable to provide for them. Now I get into some very more crucial yet overlooked stuff here. Your life goals. Do you have a bucket list planned out yet? Do you know where you want to travel? Do you know what kind of luxuries you do want to have when the MOAS hits? When this MOAS does hit, it's not going to just be about the money, but rather it's going to be more about the freedom that you're going to have. This great wealth transfer that's happening right now is on the equivalent, if not beyond that of the Great Exodus, if you are a Bible reader. So you will have so much time and freedom on your hands to be able to do all the things that you want to accomplish. So, create a bucket list. Be creative. Write down as many ideas as you can. Don't judge them until you decide to revise them. In your bucket list, consider the things that you want to do for yourself and what you want to do for with your friends and family. And when the MOAS does hit, consider a celebration. Plan out a celebration of sorts. Because you're going to have this much money, and you're going to want to spend it with your friends and family. And you want to be able to connect with your friends and family. future, a lot of you will want to disappear off the face of the earth because you do fear of what's going to happen when people find out about your wealth. That's going to be quite lonely, in my opinion. And believe me, I'm a lonely guy. It doesn't mean you have to expose to your friends and family how you acquired this wealth. You could still celebrate without exposing your position. While I do believe that hiding your assets and preventing knowledge of your winnings is a good way to secure your financial future as well, there are still ways that you could celebrate and you could spoil your friends, family, and loved ones without having to really tell them how you got it. Or how much you have, for that matter. So go out and celebrate. Have a good time with your friends and family. Because being able to celebrate with them is also a form of generosity in a way. Health and fitness. A lot of you are going to be overlooking this as well. As I stated before, with this MOAS, you're going to have a lot of time on your hands. And you should invest some of that time to improve your body and your mindset. You should use that time to improve your diet, do some exercises, and to plan out a way to get yourself to live as long and as healthy as you physically can. The last thing you want to do when you are free from this corrupt system is to have an unhealthy body that's crippled. You don't want to spend your time in hospitals taking pharmaceutical drugs. You don't want to be living on hospice care in your late livelihood. So consider a trainer and deeply consider your health and fitness goals as well. And if you don't have any health and fitness goals, then you should evaluate where you want to be in your physical body. With this time that you do have, and the time that's going to be freed up after this MOAS, you're also going to want to figure out how you're going to grow and what you're going to teach yourself. What kind of things do you want to contribute to the world as well? Do you want to create a business? Then learn to be a businessman. Do you want to be a weaponsmith and forge swords, knives, and hammers? Then learn to be a blacksmith. Do you want to learn how to farm? Then find ways to educate yourself on being a good farmer. There's going to be a lot of ways that you could educate yourself when your time is free. We only have 24 hours in a day, but right now we are wasting at least 8 hours, if not more, working for other people, slaving away our bodies and minds for someone else. This is going to be a great opportunity to put that time into ourselves instead. And believe me, I know. The last thing we want to do is put our efforts into health and fitness and learning after we spent 8, 10, 12-hour shifts working for someone else. The only thing we want to do after all that is just sit in front of a TV or watch some YouTube or Netflix or whatever. But once this MOAS hits, your mindset's going to have to change. Because if it doesn't, then you're going to find yourself all the way back to where you began before this MOAS. So that's why it's very important to focus on your health and fitness and your personal growth and education. But if there is one key takeaway, it would be this: your spiritual needs. The biggest question that you are going to face after this MOAS is this: do you deserve this? Do you deserve this? Now, you don't have to be a Christian. You can be an atheist if you want to be. But this is something that you got to sit and think about. Is this with this question in particular? Do you deserve this? If you are not at least 100% in alignment in saying yes to this question, you are going to risk losing everything that you have held, that you have waited for, and all that patience and all the stress of looking at the markets is just going to go to waste if you are not 100% in alignment with this question. If you say no, even 0.1%, because this is going to drastically affect how much income you're going to have, how much money you're going to have after this MOAS. So sit, pray, and meditate. Envision what your life is going to be like after this MOAS. Envision it as it happens. Like, what I want you to do when you're done watching this video sometime in your free time, I want you to take at least 30 minutes to sit and meditate. And in that meditation, I want you to picture yourself where you're going to be as this MOAS is happening. When you see GameStop and AMC and GTII and whatever assets or investments that you have put your money in, as it's skyrocketing, as it's going up 10, 20, 30, 50%, I want you to envision where you're going to be. And then I want you to envision where it's going to be when it goes to 2 times, 10 times, 100 times its current value as of today. I want you to envision what you're going to be doing and how you're going to be feeling. And then when it hits 100 times, 1,000 times, 10,000 times, I want you to envision what you will be doing, how you will be feeling, and who will you be reaching out to when this happens. And then I want you to envision where you're going to be 1 year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. This is a very important question you got to answer yourself. And if you have not fully paid attention to anything that I've said, and this is the only thing that you take home with you, I will know I have done my job, because this is the most important question that you should ask yourself if you are in any of these plays. Alright, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for watching, and we'll see if there's another video that I'll make. I don't have any plans, but if it's to be, then if you want to be notified, go ahead and subscribe. And if you want to support me with this endeavor, then please hit the like button. Thank you.